excited to be here for our first Facebook Live. I am Sue Looney.
And I am Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. We're really glad you're here today.
So if you would just take a moment, if you're here with us, go ahead and hit a like below or leave us a comment to let us know that you're here.
Okay, excellent. So we want to spend some time thinking about what we've learned this year that'll serve us for next year. So one of the things that we like to do anytime we meet with teachers is have a discussion around what celebrations do we have? What things have gone well? And so we kind of want to start this conversation with that also, because none of us have a definitive answer on what we should or shouldn't be doing. And so we're here to begin that conversation and to hear from you and facilitate some of the things that we've been reading and hearing about. And so we'd like to start with that first celebration of what have we learned that has served us this year and that we can take for the remainder of this year and into years to come. So, ladies, what have we learned?
I have one.
Oh, good.
So one of the things that I have learned is I have a huge appreciation for the arts and music and physical education. And what I've noticed is that those are the experiences that have gotten people through. Like in my own family, my kids are artists and I'm used to art being around, but I've noticed everywhere, like, Molly, I think you were coloring, and Heidi's been baking, and my son is learning new music on the piano, and I've been exercising. And so I feel like the appreciation for those other subject areas has come through loud and clear. And it makes me believe that we need to pull those in to the more academic subject areas. So, why not do some cooking and learn some fractions? And there's certainly mathematics in art and music. So I think that's a real positive, a real celebration of those things that have been marginalized in the curriculum. I think we're finding out how truly important they are.
Well, they certainly are getting people through this, right? Like, to go with what you were saying before, I mean, all of the superstars that have done concerts and donated, various amounts of time to say thank you to all the frontline workers and all of that. I mean, that's what real life is. So it's kind of crazy that those things are marginalized because they are truly meaningful in your real life and in any kind of celebrations. We're getting a lot of comments. My cousin Heidi is here and Ellen is here from Marshfield. So exciting.
From Pittsburgh.
Leslie is from Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness. And then Alina.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Everyone, we are sharing some things that are celebrations of this rough time that we're having, of things that we may have learned that will get us through the remainder of this year and into next. So we've been talking briefly about the integration of other content areas back into the learning that we've been doing. And I think that's really critical, is building those connections, because I mean, if we think back through history, in the Renaissance, no one was a math person or an art person or a reading person. It was, you were a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman who did all of those things. So if we think about that, that's a great way to kind of look back. We have something we can learn maybe from that time.
Yeah, I think more people joining us. So exciting. Tina, welcome. I was thinking that what I have learned being on the parent end, that communication is so extremely important. And that's coming at us from all different angles, right? Yeah. But I'm thinking particularly with school that I just can't imagine if my school district wasn't sending the amount of emails. In the first few weeks when they weren't ready for this, I was feeling anxious about what is going to happen with school, because I'm not hearing from them and they don't know what they're doing and I don't know what I'm doing. And then once the emails started coming in and they started telling us we're doing stuff, we're getting it together. And I needed to feel like they were going to have a plan. So I really noticed that communication is just so important, and I think schools already knew that, but in a time of such uncertainty, I think it's just been heightened.
Yeah, and I think that the reason we're talking and starting with celebrations is, first of all, I always like to do that, and that's how we generally start our meetings. But we can take those lessons forward. So when we come back, we can think about how we've communicated well with parents or families, or maybe those moments when we didn't communicate so well. So what did we learn to take forward? So I love that, Molly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'd just like to welcome Lauren and Annalise. Welcome to our conversation. We're happy to have you.
Yeah. And I think, having some consistency of message too, that's been helpful in places that there has been a single location where we're going to go to get information versus like 30,000 emails, because that I think was originally my situation as a parent. And I was like, hold on just a moment. And then it was that switch of, as educators, we so quickly have to adjust to things. And that was an adjustment that was made pretty quickly. They're like, okay, this is not working for anybody. So let's put everything in a central location. Let's use some technology that we have available. And that was one way where they could communicate, where everyone could have one space and no one was being bombarded, which I think was really important.
Yeah, for sure. I think another thing that for me has been highlighted is that you can certainly see the importance of relationships, and that overall is just is a huge thing. And seeing people face to face, and even if face to face means this, I think I've seen these ladies a majority of the days throughout this quarantine, and I'm grateful for that. But certainly we can appreciate that kids need all of that too. The relationships are so important, and I think teachers are trying harder than ever to build relationships with their students and with their parents. I was meeting with some kindergarten teachers the other day, and one of their big comments was, we're teaching parents along with the students, because our kids are not getting onto these computers by themselves. The parents are sitting there with them, hopefully, and we're teaching them math in a way that they've never learned math before. So the power of that relationship translates in 100,000 different ways. And I think that, teachers are trying harder than ever to be communicating with parents. And I think that's going to stick. I don't think that teachers are ever going to be able to let that go from here on in, because this has been such an insane and crazy time.
Yeah, and that was on my list too. I also, if you're here, we'd love to hear what you learned in your celebrations. Go ahead and feel free to add that into the comment box, or even ask a question. And what you're witnessing here is just sort of a live conversation around these two questions. But I had written down families and the importance of families. And I think we realize that it's really important when we educate the whole child that we've got to remember how to include our families and to account for various scenarios and I want to say inequities across our students. And so, that reach out to home and to families is greater than ever. And I hope that's one of the things that sticks too, because when we are a team and we come together around a child, that's when everything works best.
Yeah. Ellen is saying she agrees with that. And I think, it's that idea of when we have family involvement. So I think it becomes a two-way street, in the sense of sometimes we're really happy to have parent involvement, and other times we're like, okay, this parent could stop involving themselves. But when we have this situation, if we haven't built that relationship prior to a crisis, then it's really hard to do that afterwards. And we have to think about, okay, how do we provide that support as administrators, as coaches, as teachers, so that we can build those relationships before we come into crisis? And what does that look like during that? So like when we consider meeting the needs of each child, it's not going to look the same in every household and in every family. And, depending on what is happening with that family, what we would need to provide is going to be really different. So I'm thinking as we look forward into maybe next year, I wonder, and this may be a topic for us later, but I'm going to bring it up now. Are we beginning to pull families and parents? So the fact that we don't have any clear, like, okay, this is definitely happening or this is definitely not happening next year, and we're all planners, educators, I think that's like pretty much across the board. We want like a definitive answer. We're not going to get that. So what are we doing right now to begin to reach out to parents to think about that next year and that next step and over the summer and what we might provide?
Yeah, and I think we have an opportunity right now before we wrap up this school year, like you said, to poll the parents. So to ask the parents what has really worked well for you, and what didn't work so well for you, and then maybe not having a one size fits all answer. There's a lot of people agreeing over here about the communication piece. And that outreach to parents, and Annalise pointing out the in specific to mathematics. So we're really talking the general big picture, but of course we are math experts and thinking about mathematics all the time. So I think that's a really great point, Heidi. Like right now we have an opportunity, and it might be scary to ask for feedback because maybe we don't want to hear what didn't go well.
Right.
But with the likelihood of school being hybrid or potentially interrupted next year, we need to ask now those questions and then sort of start formulating those plans. So I actually really love the newfound appreciation for families, and I think it's only going to make us stronger and better.
We have people saying over here that it's important to recognize that everybody's kind of going through a teach, learn, and support time, and that it adds stress and fear to the conversation and to your life at home, because your life at home is now school and home and fun and not fun. And then my district pulled one teacher from each school at the same grade level to work together. We developed relationships across the district that never would have happened.
Love
so
that.
How interesting.
Great idea.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for saying that, Sue. And Heidi's saying social emotional needs must come first. I think now more than ever that is super clear. Yeah. Super clear. And I think the idea that goes along with that is the equity that we've mentioned, but I don't think that people realized before this happened how much inequity there is. And I also don't think that people realize, like, even if you acknowledge that there is inequity, that you're actually doing something about it. Just acknowledging it doesn't actually do a whole lot, but then now act on that. And so how do we act on that? And I think we've seen great efforts and probably areas where people need much improvement in that field, but it is blatantly apparent now.
Yeah. And I think too, like, so our role as coaches or consultants or administrators, I think we have to think about the social emotional welfare of our teachers as well who are going through this. I think they're, I was reaching out with the teachers I was meeting with this week, and I have a number of friends who are teachers as well, and they said, they're going back, they're helping their kids on, like, get their supplies out of school. Like, they think kids are coming in waves, and just that emotional reaction to, like, this is the end of this year. Like, I'm not going to get to say goodbye to my students in the way that I wanted. I am not going to able, to have that wrap up that we generally have in the year. And so thinking about that too, how do we support teachers in that as well?
Yeah, I think we really have to take good care of one another. Acknowledge the stress level, acknowledge that there's only so much that we can do, and really come together and celebrate those things that are going well. I love the sharing from Ellen about the surveys that went home, and as a result of the survey, you were responsive. So there's been a lot of good things figured out. I want to bring up a question. Can I bring up a question?
Yeah.
So something that happened that I think is a good thing, but I think it's murky. All right. So We have some muddy waters around testing now that we have kids at home, and how are we going to grade them? And we're learning things like, you know what, when I take my kids in a small group, it goes much better than when I educate whole class. And maybe my grading system isn't equitable because they're getting different levels of support at home, or really, what is my purpose in grading anyways? And so I want to put that in my celebration pile because I think taking a hard look at how we assess children and what we do with that information is overdue, and the over-reliance on test scores in general. I think if we can use this opportunity to question how we do that, that would be a big win. And it's not that I know the answer to that, but I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, assessment is a big animal, and I think we have a lot to learn about assessment, and I think this is a big wake-up call that we need to work on it.
Yeah. So I think we should move on to our second question.
Sure.
I don't know if either of you wanted to add anything else.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we could spend like all day on this topic, but
yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, look at how
that has not happened already.
The comment box is really very full. Everyone's talking about it, so it's great.
Yeah, I saw some comments about taking care of teachers' social and emotional learning and actively working on those things. So I think if we take those celebrations and bring those all forward, that's going to put us in a better spot. But there's clearly more conversation. So here's a question for the group, and this can certainly go into the comments. We set this up as a Facebook Live for you to view a conversation with the three of us. But we can do a webinar around this topic so that, you know, we can see your faces and you can chime in and talk, and we could so if that's something of interest to you, if you would just write the word webinar in the chat, in the comments, that would, you know, that would let us know that. Anything else on our celebrations or things we've learned from the comment boxes or from any of us?
My kids need more snacks than they get in school. if the grocery consumption that we've been going through is any indication of what a normal school day, like blessings be upon you to all the teachers on that, I'm like, oh my word, like we just had snack.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
All around.
A few people are appreciating the idea of a webinar.
Okay. Well, so we're
Thanks, ladies. Thanks.
So one thing we forgot to mention at the beginning, we're holding a raffle, and we're going to let you know how to do that shortly. And we're also going to be asking you for input for topics and where we go from here. So, you know, definitely keep us informed. This is what we want to be doing. We want to be together.
Yeah, we have another question to discuss.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh,
here it is. Yep.
So, you know, with all the celebrations that we just talked about, and so much unknown for the fall, what can we do this summer to prepare for the unknown?
I guess I have a big question around this, and the idea of using summer, how do we feel about the idea of using summer to cover content that wasn't covered this school year? Do we think that's a good idea? Do we think we shouldn't do that? What are districts thinking? I think that's a big nut to crack. I have my opinion, but I see you shaking your head, Heidi.
So yeah, I'm in a hard no on that. And like, I know like we're going to disagree, so feel free to disagree with me. So this is my thought process though around it. I feel that, you know, we work with districts that kind of run the spectrum, and including the places where our kids are in school. And the fact that my kids have an educator, a former educator, internet access to computer, like, yes, I could definitely continue that information and continue to move them forward. And I'm sure there will be plenty of parents, and I hear a lot from some of my friends, like, yes, I'm definitely going to quote unquote catch up my kid this summer for whatever they missed. I'm like, what is catch up? Like, do we really know what that is? are we only then expanding the gap between access that kids have when we put those expectations out there as an educational community? And then like from the social emotional thing, I wonder about it, like, okay, so my kids, like there's that used to summer, there's the teacher brain of like, can we have summer? and then how do we incorporate that? So I think I am one of those mothers who's like, you're going to read every day. Sorry. And you're going to do some sort of math activity or puzzle or every day. Like that happens regardless in our house. That's just part of living in this house during the summer.
I'm going to move in because I want to do those things and I don't want anyone to bother me about it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can't say that it happens without arguing or.
I won't argue. I promise. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't know. It is one of those things of like, yes, as a parent, do I want those resources? Absolutely. Do I want someone to tell me that I need to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think what I hear you saying is we could get into some murky territory, and again around this idea of widening the gap. And so I wonder, you know, like instead of black and white, like we make up brown or we don't, like is there middle ground? And is there a way to have some optional things? Or I don't know. I think if nothing else, we have to do like nothing for the end of June through the 4th of July. I think everybody needs a break. I think teachers need a break. I think administrators need a break. I think parents need a break. So I think we definitely need to give that break. But is there middle ground where we could send optional, or should we just all breathe and allow I don't know. Like I actually agree with you. You said feel free to disagree. I actually agree with you. I think we open up a problem, and it might be tempting to say, let me look at where I left off and move some of that content to summer. But I don't know.
I feel like there's always that thing that exists anyways, right? Where we're trying to teach math, at least going just with mathematics, math in a conceptual way, and then sending that home doesn't always work, right? Because if we haven't taught the parents that this is why we're doing this, and somebody said that earlier, I'm not sure who it was that said it early, but saying the why, that they don't know the why. It might have been Annalise. I think that part is so important. And so, you know, all of a sudden the kids are coming in and doing tricks, and that happens regardless, but to rely on it I think is not okay. I think that it's okay for kids to keep up what was learned throughout the year. Michaela is saying kids need to read and practice fluency over the summer. You know, and prepare ourselves. And Sue is saying that she'd rather have her class list and build relationships over the summer. So that's always something interesting too. I know with the little ones, they always look forward to that letter that they get from their teachers, and my high schoolers don't really look forward to that.
What are other districts doing? I know we have quite a few district folk from different places represented. What have been your conversations, if you put it in the comments, about summer work and what our plans for that are? And I know we have some people from different spots, not just New England. So it could be very different in other states as well. If we're looking, you know, across the U.S., what might that look like in one place or another?
Summer might begin next week. For some people.
I know next week for some people. And then like the go back time is significantly earlier. So it's, you know, beginning first or second week of August, which, you know, is much sooner than we do here in New England. So it's just that piece. And should we have summer? I know that's like, ooh, people are going to come after me, but like, is it a time to begin to think about like maybe year round with a good sized break in the summer, maybe like 6 weeks, but spacing that out over the year so we lose less time. I think we have the opportunity, if we take it, to redesign a lot of things about education. So I don't know.
So Michaela is asking here about what are educators going to do during that time, right? So things like thinking about overall redesign, but like right here and now in this moment, one thing that we're going to share, and we're going to share a link at the end, we have a downloadable PDF with some questions to help you start crafting some answers. But I think we basically have to start preparing for plan A, B, and C, but really loosely, because we're waiting on guidance from our governors, right? So we could have a plan in place and the governors could say no students in school, period. And so, you know, then our answer is there. So we're in this place of uncertainty. So any plans need to be loose and flexible. But I think we need to have conversations around what it looks like if we're back, and how we attend to the social emotional needs of those students who have been through a traumatic situation, as well as our staff. Plan B is, what does a hybrid situation look like? And to be honest, that really worries me in terms of teacher burnout, because that means I have to plan and facilitate at-home learning while teaching students twice in my classroom. And then that seems to be the likely thing. And then the last one is, what if they're not with us at all? And so I think that if we need to sort of be using the summer and the upcoming time that's coming right away to be thinking about those three plans. But we are going to provide some guiding questions. We don't pretend to have the answers. I don't think anyone does. I think it's all about this kind of dialogue.
Yeah, Annalise is talking about using the summer to develop fluency and sending home math games for kids to play with their parents. That would help them not only with their fluency, but with their, you know, fun time to be with their parents.
Yeah, I love that idea, and you're referring to Annalise as a win-win. And I think, you know, that idea of optional and available versus required. And that's so much different. That approach to work on fluency is so much different than saying, I'm going to use summer months to cover lost ground, or, you know, lost. I mean, you know.
I think one thing that we have to absolutely think about, regardless of what's going to be happening in September, is we were not prepared for this. And I think that, you know, now that schools are up and running with whatever plan that they went with, none of them are perfect. So how do we make a plan for another emergency situation that's better than what we have now? Thinking about that will serve us well regardless. I mean, I'm hearing from places where they had snow, like places where they don't make up snow days, right? So they have some plan in place so that kids, when they are home from school, are doing this work, and this work is whatever it is. It's online, or it's this packet that was sent home at the beginning of the year, or whatever it was. But those people picked right up. So even if they were in planning stages for a week or two, they had 2 weeks of solid plans for those kids. And is that the best possible solution? I don't know. But they had something for the kids right away. So I think if nothing else over the summer, there needs to be talk about what's our game plan should this happen again. If we go back in September and then in November, they say home again. Right. I mean, let's hope that that's not going to happen, but let's be prepared just in case.
Yeah. And then I just a reminder, right, that we treat ourselves with some grace and some kindness. You know, so when we talk about that, none of us were prepared. And so, you know, we are kind to ourselves, that we're responding to crisis in real time in the best way that we can with the best of intentions. And while it might be imperfect, this is, you know, we need to continue. I think I hear a lot of teachers building each other up, but we need to continue to extend that to ourselves. And we need to be loud about that to the community that might speak otherwise. Like we are doing our best here. But it feels like there's this conversation maybe really would be nice in a webinar. So we'll be in touch about what could possibly be next, because I don't think we're about a half hour in. I don't think we can come to like a really solid conclusion. I feel like we could keep going with this, you know, and
For sure.
we have more to think about.
Definitely.
Anything else in the comments that we want to pick up on before we go to our next step?
Oh, I love this. Barb is saying that her school is ordering manipulatives and dice and cards that they want their students to have at home in case they're not in school, which I think is great. And Michaela's mentioned, you know, it needs to be okay to take time to plan for these crisis situations. And I think absolutely, you know, it is that piece of, well, and then that flexibility piece of it too. So I think it would be lovely if we had some plans in place for, in our case, snow. Not everyone on here has snow. Earthquake days, fire, but you know, all of those other options. What plans do we have in place? I know my kids do best when they have a structure and a schedule that's not interrupted. And I know, you know, I have friends with children who have special needs, like having that ability to say like, okay, like I have something in place that is there and available while we have time to then figure things out, or just saying full stop. I think in Rhode Island, they did that. They just said, we're taking spring break now. So it gave everybody a breather of a week or so to kind of figure out, okay,
yeah,
what we're going to do when we come back, so that we have some time and some space to think versus being in crisis.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right.
Do we want to talk about our raffle here again?
We can go to the raffle. I was going to talk about the PDF.
Yes, PDF.
Want to do the PDF first?
Yes, PDF first. So in the comment box, we have a PDF that we've kind of created with some of the guiding questions around this. So we were figuring that many of you who are on here are already having this conversation with your colleagues, with your administrators, or if you're administrator with your colleague and teachers about what do we do next? Like what conversations we need to have. And I know many of us would like to not be having those conversations, like, okay, we're still in the middle of this crisis, but how do we go forward? How do we lead these conversations with those that we work with those that we support? And so we put together some facilitator questions, and it's there now in the comment box, the link to that, so that you can think about, okay, so like, how do I facilitate this conversation with the teachers that I work with? How do I facilitate this with other administrators? How do we begin to have this conversation about next steps in a way that helps other voices be heard and everyone to have kind of an opportunity to put some input in it? So we created that for you there. We hope that it's helpful for you. It's in the comments, a link for that there, or if for some reason you're having difficulty getting it out of the comments, we just say having problem with PDF, and we will get it to you after when we look through the comments. We'll send it to you directly.
Yeah, and before we move to the next piece, also just to mention, as part of the guidance, I think we should be pulling some students into that conversation. Yeah. Again, what worked well for you, what didn't. I think we need to bring everybody to the table around that conversation. So those kinds of tips and ideas are in that document for you. So I think we're gonna move to
how about raffle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get to do the fun stuff.
You do.
We are going to have a raffle on Monday. We're hoping that we're going to have some more viewers over the weekend in their spare time wanting to watch us talk about our stuff. And so we have two things that are being raffled off. One is a half an hour coaching session, virtual coaching session with one of us. And the other one is a manipulative. So if you are interested in being in a raffle for either one of those or both, please put coaching, manipulative, or both in the comment box. We're going to decide what the manipulative is depending on what grade you are. So we have a bunch of things to choose from, and we'll make that decision when we know who the winner is. So good luck.
And so, yeah, so let everyone know if they are interested, they can come back. If you know someone who might be interested, they can come back, watch, and then enter their name in with that information in the comments as well. And we're going to keep it open until Monday, right?
Yes,
we are.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have the pleasure of talking about our big announcement.
so exciting.
We have been busy spinning our wheels, and some of you know because we've reached out, and to some of you directly because we know you personally and have worked in your buildings. Just how can we help? And we realized how well we were doing together. And so we are creating a platform that is called Math Together, and it's a membership area where we can come together and do things like this and then follow up on them. So we're going to continue to do Facebook Lives, which are going to be ongoing to share more information. But basically, the big announcement is that we're starting a membership site, and we're going to be making that live on June 1st. If you're not on our mailing list, you can get onto that mailing list to make sure you get information about that. And you just text 22828 and then you text Looney Math. And we're also going to be sharing information on social media. And so we have what's super cool about the Math Together is it gives us this really cool hashtag MathTLC for Math Together Learning Community. And it just coincidentally has the little TLC in there. So these are ways that you can find out as we get ready for June 1st. But basically, right now, what we're looking for are people that might be interested in really helping to shape that community. So it's going to be a place to come together to get professional development, to support one another in a very interactive way. It's not like anything else that's out there. It's a brand new type of platform, and we think it is the cutting edge in the future of how we should be working with one another and how we should be delivering professional development, particularly right now. So we can come together. And so we want to sort of pull it together, and there's an opportunity to be a founding member. And as a founding member, you get to, there's a discount, and you get to help and tell us what you think should be there. So if you think we should be talking more about fact fluency, you're going to let us know that. And if there's something that you specifically want to be there. So founding members can help craft that now. And if that's something you want to do, you should type the word founding member into the comments or send a direct message on this Facebook page. It's the Looney Consulting page, so you can send a message there. Even if you're not a founding member, this website is designed for people to always have input. So we are super excited, and we are working in overdrive to sort of pull this together. Am I forgetting anything, ladies?
No, I think this particular venture of ours is really within the name. So we had been talking about, even prior to, I think that's the thing, like prior to all of this happening, we've been having this conversation about what does it look like to gather math educators together, to gather administrators and curriculum. What does it look like to have a community that can really support and encourage each other in this way, versus us just sharing? How can we share amongst ourselves and the group, so it's not just a come and listen opportunity? So we're thinking about how we really redesign professional development, and this opportunity, we're going to call it that, this opportunity to be home and think virtually, really pushed us into okay, no time like the present.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for more information on that. And we are going to continue with this kind of a discussion. Did you want to say a little bit more?
Yeah. Next week, we're on a Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are planning to have another Facebook Live conversation. We have what we think is a good topic, but if you have things that you think are timely and you'd like to discuss, we're certainly willing to build things into the conversation, because we are here to learn with you. So we were thinking about how would we begin the year in September. What are the things that we would focus on when kids come to school? But if you have ideas that are better than that, please put them in the comment box and we will make that happen.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. This was really fun, and share your feedback. Let us know how we can do a better job. What are you interested in learning about? And always be curious and always be kind.
Okay. See you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.